On 5 News tonight, a bronze for Chris Froome in Rio. Holidaymakers hit as Eurostar workers plan strikes and a crisis in A&E. Chris Froome wins a bronze in the cycling time trial, the latest medal for Team GB. Earlier, there was a silver for swimmer Siobhan Marie O'Connor, who's overcome a chronic illness. Watching the race at home, her delighted grandparents. Eurostar workers planned 7 days of strike action. It's the third major rail strike this summer. Warnings about staffing levels in A&E. One hospital warns it may have to close its doors at night. Also tonight, urgent appeals for ceasefire in the Syrian city of Aleppo as 2 million people are trapped in the city without aid. And did Donald Trump really suggest Hillary Clinton should be assassinated? Hello and welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Sian Williams. It was nail-biting. It was supremely tough, but it ended in another medal for Team GB. Just over an hour ago, Chris Froome won bronze in the time trials in Rio, winning the first British cycling medal in this year's Olympics. Well, the race came just weeks after he picked up his third Tour de France title, and as Julian Drucker reports, it came on a pretty successful day all round for Team GB.
A time trial, and for Chris Froome, the start of the road in his hunt for gold. Could he emulate Bradley Wiggins and do better than bronze 4 years ago? Half an hour in, on a difficult and, as we've seen, treacherous route, Froome appeared to be giving away time. Was he doing enough? It left him needing a big finish, but it was a time deficit too large to come back from. A masterclass from Switzerland's Fabian Cancellara put pay to that. Just about room for Froome on that podium with a bronze. From Bath to Rio's Olympic pool, 20-year-old Siobhan Marie O'Connor from Somerset was about to swim into the history books of British sport. In the red cap, she knew she faced a gruelling 200-metre individual medley. It was a close race, but could she beat the Hungarian favourite Latinka Hosszu? Not quite. 0.3 seconds separated gold and silver. She's the first British woman to win a medal in the event in its 48-year Olympic history.
Oh,
back in Somerset, an explosion of emotions for her grandparents.
Oh, she got silver. Oh, no.
Their granddaughter has achieved so much more. Diagnosed with ulcerative colitis just after London 2012, it has weakened her immune system and brought regular bouts of tiredness. But it hasn't stopped her.
With the help of advice from people like Steve Redgrave, she's coped with it, and she has to keep on a very strict diet and even take her own specialised food out to Brazil with her.
Elsewhere, in the 200-metre freestyle relay, Team GB tried to catch America's superhuman swimming champ Michael Phelps, but it wasn't enough. But silver for these men meant Britain's best result in the race for 108 years. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
You saw Michael Phelps in that report. Last night we told you how he had more Olympic golds than anyone else. Well, the most successful Olympian of all time has extended his incredible record. He picked up another 2 gold medals in the swimming, winning the 200-metre butterfly as well as that 4x200-metre relay for the United States. He now has just the 21 gold medals in all. Not all is well in the pool, though, at least the one used by the divers. It appears to have turned green overnight because of what organisers say is a proliferation of algae. However, they have insisted the water is safe. Let's have a look then at the medals table tonight. As things stand, Great Britain and Northern Ireland still in 11th place with that 1 gold medal. In fact, Team GB has more medals than it did at this stage in London 2012 at the top. You can see there still the United States. Let's have a chat now to the senior sports reporter for The Sun Online, Duncan Wright, who joins me in the studio. Thanks for being with us. Chris Froome, it was tight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some people will be disappointed that Froome has only got a bronze medal, but in truth, he's had a terrific season. That Tour de France really took it out of his legs. He gave all he had. He just didn't have the pace endurance over the course of the race. Fabian Cancellara put in what was, for him, a vintage performance. Cancellara's not really been seen in the last couple of years at that kind of speed, but that's his second Olympic title himself. So Froome, a bronze, same as a bronze in London 2012, which will be a disappointment for him because he was desperate for the Olympic gold. But I think after the year he's had, I don't think anyone can be disappointed with any of the work Froome's
No,
had.
I can't believe saying disappointment over a bronze, frankly. What other medal hopes have we got to look forward to?
So tonight there's Max Whitlock is in the men's all-round gymnastics. He's also in there with Niall Wilson, the 20-year-old from Leeds. Wilson actually out-qualified Whitlock in the qualifying. He was ranked 5th, whilst Whitlock disappointed somewhat. He fell off the high bars and also had a bit of an iffy landing on the vault, which is normally one of his strengths. So Whitlock only qualified in 12th, but he's the golden boy of British gymnastics. There's a lot is expected of him. Perhaps in contention for a medal. It'd be tough to ask him to go for a gold medal tonight, in truth. His best bet for a medal was in the pommel horse, where he's obviously world champion. But they've got chances tonight.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying the diving, and we've got another performance to look forward to tonight.
Sure, I mean, and it's refreshing to see, actually. Chris Mears and Jack Law, they're number 4 in the world, but they really want to go out and win this Olympic title. They won the European Championship. They tried a new dive. It was you have to forgive the technicalities. It was a 2.5 somersault, 3 twist dive. It's actually it's the hardest dive in the tournament. In the competition, no one else is trying it, but they're going all out to try and win there. It's a 3.9 difficulty, and they hope to overtake the Germans, the Russians and the Chinese, but promises to be an interesting night in the green pool, which they promise is going to be blue.
There's a real risk doing something spectacular, isn't there, and a high degree of difficulty when, if you don't pull it off, you don't get a medal at all.
It's true, but you know, too often some of our divers and some of our other athletes in other events have just tried to be safe and cautious, haven't gone that extra mile to try and win something, and have just missed out as a result. Now, you know, Lewis Smith tried it in the gymnastics in the team event the other day. It didn't quite work for GB, but you know, he had to try it to try and get them a medal, and you can't fault these lads for trying to do it. Absolutely. You know, they want to win the Olympic title, and good luck to them.
We've got an outside medal hope in the weightlifting, haven't we?
Sure, yeah. Rebecca Tiller, 17. I mean, it's a fantastic story. This is a girl that started weightlifting. Her dad was a bodybuilder. She's actually got 3 younger sisters, all of whom weightlift, from Yorkshire. And she's in the game for the first time, actually sponsored by a butcher, because the funding was cut off. Only just made it out to Brazil in terms of cost. But she's a good bet, perhaps for 2020 in Tokyo, but there is an outside chance. She's the only female British weightlifter we've got out there, but good luck to Rebecca, and certainly all her family. I know the mum and 3 sisters are still at home. I think Dad's out there supporting her one, but yeah, good luck to her tonight.
Absolutely, cross fingers. Thanks very much, Duncan. Let's have a look at some other news now. Travel plans for thousands of holidaymakers have been left in doubt after workers at Eurostar announced 2 separate strikes. Staff will walk out for 4 days from Friday and again over the August bank holiday weekend. It's in a row about their work-life balance. Eurostar bosses have promised to keep disruption to a minimum, but it is the 3rd strike of what is already a very frustrating time for many passengers, as our political editor Andy Bell reports.
On the train! It certainly has the look of a summer of discontent. Members of the rail union, the RMT, picketing the Department of Transport as the conflict on Britain's railways took another twist. This morning, passengers who'd booked on Eurostar woke up to the news that RMT members on those services will strike this weekend and on the bank holiday weekend at the end of the month over what they call work-life balance. That's working anti-social hours. Jackie Nakiwala is due to be coming back from holiday on a Eurostar on one of the strike days. Right now, she doesn't know if her train will be one of those cancelled.
So many things could happen. I think we're either going to be on a train, stuck, you know, just sort of jam-packed like sardines with our bags, my 7-year-old son standing all the way from Paris back to London, or we're going to be stranded in Paris.
Strike actions also planned for the Virgin East Coast Main Line over changes to the job of conductor. That issue's already caused months of disruption on southern trains, although strikes planned for tomorrow and Friday there have been suspended for talks. So why is all this happening now? Well, the union says Eurostar is an old issue, but on the other disputes they see the hand of the DfT, the Department of Transport.
The chief civil servant in the DfT has said he wants to bash the RMT and he wants to get us out of the industry.
Are you not making this a political dispute when it should be just about members and their conditions?
Well, it's not political in that sense for us. It's about getting a proper agreement. But if there's a third party, an unseen hand at the table, we can't make those agreements.
The government, though, claim it's not up to them to fix this.
I don't think this is a matter for government to get involved in a dispute between unions and management. It's about improving the passenger experience, it's about delivering new trains, it's about tackling some of the problems that have been there on the line. I want to see all of those things change, but right now, in the middle of a dispute between management and unions, things have to get sorted out by them.
The agreement to talk on the Southern Rail dispute offers some hope, but on that, as with Eurostar, nothing has actually been resolved yet to get trains moving freely again. Andy Belt, 5 News.
Let's talk now to Mick Lynch, Assistant General Secretary of the RMT Union. You saw him in that report there. His members work on Southern, Virgin and Eurostar services, all disrupted, Mick. I mean, passengers are going to be very unhappy. Why all at once? Why over the summer holidays?
Well, it's not a planned event. There are deadlines in all of these disputes. Southern has a dispute where they seek to impose contracts on the 21st of August. On Eurostar, the new timetable comes in at the beginning of September, and once timetables are out, it's very difficult to make amendments. If we don't get an agreement on work-life balance, rosters, shift patterns, etc., we will have missed an opportunity, and the company's saying they can't do anything till the middle of next year, perhaps. So our members are fed up of waiting for an agreement on this issue, so they've asked that we put them into an industrial dispute and take the action that's been set down.
You can feel viewers at home saying, work-life balance, what about my work-life balance? You know, I've been waiting to go on holiday, waiting to go on Eurostar at the weekend or on August bank holiday, and now it looks like I won't be able to.
Well, I'm full of sympathy for that. I really mean that. But our members have been waiting nearly 10 years for this agreement. The company keeps fobbing us off, keeps telling us that agreement is in the pipeline, but they never sit around the table and put down on paper what's needed to be done to make an agreement. All workers deserve a decent work-life balance right across British industry and in British society. Our members at Eurostar are fortunate to have a union that will stand up for them and put the argument on their behalf. But Eurostar needs to come to the table and make an agreement. We're available to meet them at any time before Friday if we can get this dispute off and get a proper agreement. That will make everyone happier than they are at the moment, I should think.
Meantime, you're due to go to ACAS, the resolution service, as it were, getting this all sides together in the Southern dispute. Optimistic that we're going to see something there?
Well, we're glad that we're going into talks about preconditions, and ACAS will set out the agenda tomorrow, and we're hoping that we'll go in there with spirit of goodwill and both parties will come to the table in an honest way, and hopefully we can get an agreement that suits everyone who's involved in this, including the public and the passengers, our members, and the operator Southern. Hopefully that can happen in a process of goodwill.
If there is somebody who's watching tonight who is either a commuter, travels by Southern or Virgin, or is due to go on holiday, what would you say to them?
Well, what I'd say to them is that the companies need to do not want to be into these disputes. Our members are losing.
Do you apologise to them?
I apologise for the disruption. I do not welcome disruption on any train service. I worked for Eurostar for 23 years. I have no interest in disrupting that company before I became an officer. We do not want disruption on the railways. We want a safe and welcoming environment for the public. We want them to be protected with safety critical workers on all our trains so that the standards are maintained and people can travel freely and efficiently around the system.
Mick, thanks very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
An NHS trust running 3 accident and emergency departments in the East Midlands says a national shortage of trained doctors means it may have to close one of them overnight. The A&E at Grantham and District Hospital in Lincolnshire would be the one affected, meaning patients would instead be directed to units a 45-minute drive away. Bosses admit if action isn't taken, patients' lives could be put at risk. Our health correspondent Catherine Jones reports.
The Accident and Emergency Unit at Grantham in Lincolnshire treats around 50 patients in the daytime, with 30 more coming in each evening and overnight. But it may soon have to close its doors at night because of a desperate local shortage of A&E doctors.
Although things have been difficult, we've been able to mitigate that. But we've now got to a point where we can't even do that, and we're having difficulty recruiting locums to fill the gaps. So at times we have a third of our shifts unfilled, and that's not tenable in the long term.
For people used to an emergency department on their doorstep, it's a shock.
I've got no transport, so what am I going to do, get taxied to Lincoln or Boston Hospital? It's not on, is it?
It's dangerous, I think, for people that do have genuine emergencies, like heart problems, things like that.
We need a hospital more than ever. It needs reopening, not shutting.
United Lincolnshire Hospitals Trust runs 3 A&Es, this one at Grantham and 2 larger units in Boston and Lincoln. To run this A&E unit and the 2 others, the Trust needs 28 registrars or middle-grade doctors. It currently has just 12. This is an acute local crisis, but it's a symptom of a chronic national shortage of A&E specialists that hospitals across the country are having to cope with. Back in January, a 5 News investigation found 1 in 10 A&E posts were vacant. And last month, the boss of North Middlesex Hospital in London stepped down after it emerged understaffing had led to untrained receptionists assessing patients.
This is a really serious issue. We are not producing enough doctors in this country, and the demand on emergency departments is significantly higher than it was 10 years ago. We absolutely need to find ways in which to increase the recruitment and retention of our doctors and care for them better.
The bosses at Grantham say any overnight closure would be temporary, but with hospitals under huge pressure to rationalise services and a national shortage of A&E doctors, this scaling down may be the first of many. Catherine Jones, 5 News, Grantham.
Coming up on 5 News tonight, why are women too afraid to speak out about harassment at work? And what did Donald Trump really mean with those comments about gun campaigners and Hillary Clinton? See you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News tonight. The United Nations has issued a fresh appeal for a 48-hour ceasefire in the Syrian city of Aleppo. Around 2 million people are trapped there because of intense fighting between government forces and insurgent rebels. Aid agencies say conditions are too dangerous for them to go in and deliver the aid that is so desperately needed. Let's talk now to Feroz Al-Khatib, who's a UN representative for Syria. He's speaking to us from Damascus via the internet. Thanks so much for spending the time to talk to us. What are you hearing from Aleppo at the moment?
Sorry, I'm not a UN representative. I'm just the UNHCR spokesperson.
I beg your pardon.
We have been hearing a lot of reports. People are in desperate need of humanitarian assistance. We have thousands of families displaced internally within the city and living on the street, practically with no help. Our offices in Aleppo and our partners were able to respond to some of those needs by providing simple shelter and some humanitarian assistance. However, the city is huge. Aleppo is the largest city in Syria in terms of population. You're talking about millions of people.
And how likely is this immediate ceasefire that you're calling for?
Well, we cannot control the timing, but we do hope that it can start soon, because every delay is not in the interest of the displaced people inside Aleppo who need humanitarian assistance. And 48 hours is just a start to assess the needs and give the first response. And then I am sure that there will be much more time needed to deliver to most people in need.
They've been trapped there since early July, since the routes were cut off. They must be in desperate need. Is anything getting to them at all?
From inside the city, our UNHCR and some partners were able to respond to some needs. However, because of the ongoing armed conflict, it is not easy to assess, it's not easy to access, and we need more time to reach a lot of these people.
Feroz Al-Khatib from the UNHCR talking to us from Damascus. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Police have launched an investigation into airport passes after arresting 2 women at Heathrow Airport. The 2 are being held on suspicion of fraud and money laundering. Scotland Yard says the investigation is not connected to terrorism. At least 3 people have died and more than 1,000 evacuated from their homes because of wildfires on the Portuguese island of Madeira. The fires have been burning for 3 days now and have spread to the main tourist destination of Funchal. The largest survey for a generation into sexual harassment at work has painted a shocking picture of what women have to endure. More than half say they have experienced unwanted attention, inappropriate comments or worse, and the majority are too worried to report it to their bosses, as Warren Nettleford explains.
Women have been battling for equality in the workplace for years. Now a new report reveals they still have another daily battle: sexual harassment.
It depends how you take it. I'm a sort of girl that there's a line, obviously, but I can brush it off and just think, oh, okay, it's just a general comment.
I think I'd probably keep it quiet. I guess it depended on the situation, but yeah, I think women can definitely, hold that in for sure.
If they touch me like inappropriately, then I'd be embarrassed to report it.
Okay. What are we doing on this?
Right, we need to check the oil.
Things are a bit different in this female-owned garage. Other examples of harassment have been brought into sharp focus by a survey analysing attitudes in the workplace. Over half of women surveyed say they've been sexually harassed at work. 1 in 8 have experienced unwanted touching or attempts at kissing. Nearly 1 in 5 women say they were harassed by their manager or someone with direct authority over them. But 4 out of 5 women who experienced sexual harassment didn't tell their employer. Miranda claims she was harassed in her old job, but didn't speak up.
The gentleman would think that he was allowed to come past me and touch my bum if I was bent over a car, or come behind me and try and put his hand down my overalls to feel my breasts. But yeah, it just makes you feel so horrible, and you really feel like you can't tell no one.
Sexual harassment may have been outlawed for many years, but unions say only a zero-tolerance approach from employers and employees can truly stamp it out. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Well, earlier I spoke to Laura Bates, founder of the Everyday Sexism Project, who worked with the TUC on this report. I started by asking her what surprised her most about its findings.
Well, I think a number of things. I think the fact that it was so widespread, over half of all women and 63% of young women. But also for me, the really sad thing was just how few women felt able to report it. And I think that's really testament to the fact that women are genuinely scared that they won't be taken seriously, especially if they're on a 0 hours or an insecure contract. They're honestly afraid of losing their jobs because of this climate. Women are disbelieved when they talk about these issues.
And 1 in 5 of those who were questioned said actually the people who were doing the harassment were in a position of authority. That's quite a hard thing to do, isn't it? To confront your boss.
Absolutely, especially if that's somebody who has a position of power over your career, whether you get promoted next year. You can really see why people are silenced. And actually, really shockingly, of the people who did tell us that they did report to their employer, 3/4 said that nothing changed, and another 16% said that it got worse as a result. So I think that really has exposed a problem that these things aren't being done in the workplace, even when women do report them.
So what should women do if they are getting, and it ranges, doesn't it? It ranges from inappropriate jokes to inappropriate touching, which is, you know, and goes on. What do you think they should do if that's happening and they do feel a bit worried about coming forward?
Well, I think it's really important to say that there's no right or wrong response from the victim. Obviously, there are certain things that can provide support. Being a member of a union can mean that you can get more support when these things happen. But really what we'd like to see is employers and government taking action, firstly to stop this happening in the first place, to have clearer policies, to implement training, to make it possible to report without having to go to the perpetrator if that person is your manager. But also we'd like to see the government revisiting issues like tribunal fees to take away the barriers to justice that stand in the way of women in these situations.
How do you do that, though? Are you suggesting employers all have guidelines? These are the things that are acceptable and these are the things that are unacceptable?
I think employers should have clear guidelines because I think many people aren't necessarily aware of the kind of thing that actually isn't acceptable under the Equality Act. I think there is this real sense of banter, of things being brushed off. So we hear from lots of women women, for example, who experienced even really severe sexual assault in the workplace. A woman, for example, who was in a crowd of colleagues at a work Christmas party when her boss reached over and grabbed her breasts, and all of her colleagues standing around laughed along, and that made her feel like it wasn't something she could complain about. It was normal. So I think actually it would be helpful for many people to have something to let them know this isn't acceptable. But also in terms of reporting procedures, things that enable women to speak out when this does happen and to be protected and taken seriously.
Laura, thank you.
Thank you.
To America, where there has been widespread condemnation of the Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump after he appeared to suggest that Hillary Clinton should be assassinated. Mr. Trump has since said that's not what he meant, but his opponents say this time he really has gone too far. Peter Lane has the story.
Big story dominating the presidential race this morning. Donald Trump accused of openly encouraging violence against Hillary Clinton.
Good morning. A senior campaign official acknowledges to me this morning Donald Trump could have chosen his words more carefully.
It's the speech that's got everyone talking. What did Donald Trump mean when he criticised Hillary Clinton over the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms? What was he urging his supporters to do? You be the judge.
Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
Hillary Clinton responded swiftly with this tweet. A person seeking to become president of the United States should not suggest violence in any way. Former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who survived being shot 5 years ago, said Donald Trump should be condemned for suggesting violence. Mr. Trump himself later tweeted that what he actually meant was pro-Second Amendment citizens should organise and get out and vote.
you know what they guys like that?
In an already bitter and personal head-to-head, Hillary Clinton posted this campaign ad with the words, "Our kids are watching, Donald."
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
And it's not just Democrats saying that Republican candidate Donald Trump is talking himself into trouble.
It's shocking to watch. I think everybody was expecting to see candidate Trump turn into something more presidential when he finally hit the general election. But that hasn't happened. He continues to be brash, he continues to be offensive, and I think he's making a lot of people nervous about voting for him.
All this, and we haven't even got to the one-on-one televised debates yet. Peter Lane, 5 News.
That's it from us. Sean Welby has the weather next. Danny Sinha has updates. Evening. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.